On this episode of Industry Relations, Rob and I discuss new rules from the FCC regarding leads, Inman New York Connect, and the long tail of associations and MLSs. Join us. This is Industry Relations, a podcast that's at the intersection of real estate and technology from an insider's perspective, with Rob Hahn and Greg Robertson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Industry Relations. This is your co-host, the notorious Rob Hahn. As always, with me, my co-host, the fabulous Greg Robertson, who is dancing up a storm.
Hola, Rob.
Hola. Oh, man. How the hell are you? This is like a new look for you. I don't think I've ever seen you in plaid.
Really? Well, it's
before.
my lumberjack. This is how my flannel. This is how everybody dresses in Huntington Beach. We have our typical flannel. This is, I guess, more in the winter time, and then jeans and a pair of Vans. So I've got I'm representing all three here.
The Huntington look.
The Huntington look, exactly. So yeah.
How's it different than like the Seattle grunge look? Remember when flannel was like
different.
the thing?
It's not much different, actually. Yeah, it's not much different.
Like,
they haven't really gone on.
It's hard for me to
there.
come up with two cities that are more different than Huntington Beach and Seattle.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
In terms of weather, attitude, you know.
I think that the Seattle probably doesn't include the Vans, right? So
okay,
maybe some Birkenstocks or Doc Martens, but here we represent the old school Vans here.
Yes. All right. Well, there's stuff going on, and I think we kind of have to talk about a topic that we're hoping to address again, maybe in a future episode with like
be a primer,
experts.
Right? A primer.
That's right. But I figure the two of us can at least discuss it because it is on people's minds, or rather, let me put it this way: I don't
think it's on people's minds. That's why I think it's a good topic. Yeah,
it should be on people's minds. It's just like the insiders are starting to get woken up to it. So let's at least address it. And what we're talking about are the new rules from the FCC, this Federal Communications
government,
Commission.
Just in our ass every day. Now another agency's in our ass.
Oh my God, Greg, are you turning into a Republican? Oh my God, I can't believe I just heard that.
Oh man, don't get me started.
I think you Biden people love government. You want more. All right, in any event, the FCC came out with, they finalized some new rules, okay, around lead generation. And, I first heard about this actually kind of from, our industry. But what I've been seeing more recently, like on YouTube and place, are insurance industry. Right. Freaking out. So, I mean, I guess we could kind of go through it. But fundamentally, when you wrap it all in, it comes down to you are no longer allowed, I guess, as a lead generation website, right, to get a lead from a consumer and then send it to multiple advertisers, right? Yeah. What you have to now get is specific one-to-one consent from the consumer, right, to be contacted by a specific seller or service provider. So obviously this has enormous implications for us as an industry.
And I know you've written about this, but we'll put in the show notes. There's a link to a Housing Wire podcast, right, where they kind of talk about this. So we'll put a link in the show notes to that.
That's right.
If people want a little bit more in depth about it, but yeah,
that's right.
Go ahead.
And I think I just saw him on another podcast on LinkedIn somewhere as well. By the way, the company is named eVocalize, I think is what it's called. And the gentleman who was speaking really on this topic is Matthew. Can't remember his last name. But if you want to search for it, you can find it. But again, if you were to just go on YouTube and search for like FCC lead generation, you're going to find hundreds of videos, particularly from the insurance industry, because they have almost exactly the same type of dynamic where, like you go to one of these like, comparison sites or like find cheap car insurance kind of thing. And then I've done this once and you just get hammered by like 30 phone calls, texts, emails, right? So it's going to be a real thing for them as well. Similarly, in our industry, we hear about this all the time. One of the reasons why VOW never really took off was consumers assumed if I enter my email, I'm going to get hammered by
Right.
And you know what? Here's the thing: consumers kind of talk about that, right? If they list a house and it goes expired, all of a sudden they're getting hammered by 30, 40, 100 real estate agents because the expired list pull the data from the MLS. So there's a lot how this is going to end up having to change, how things are done. But so just again, I think, we're going to have real subject matter experts explain it to us. But let me just read through kind of specifically like the key things here, right? It's basically you cannot solicit via automated robocalls or robotexts, right? So the automated part is actually in there. Or voice calls made using artificial pre-recorded voice. So, right, none of that without this one-to-one consent, right? And that consent must be clear and conspicuous disclosure to the consumer, right? And be done in such a way that it's like an average consumer can understand what he's consenting to. And the marketing call has to be related to what the consumer is searching for. So in other words, if I go to a car shopping site, right, I can't get a phone call from, TV salesman, right? So what it's doing is it's sort of preventing the resale of some of these leads, which is a fairly significant business, just reselling leads. So, okay, I'm going to stop there. Reaction.
Well, okay, so let's talk about those models, right? So I think, and the thing is, I might not be you might not be caught up on all the difference because these models are always evolving as far as lead gen is concerned on these portals as well. But what has been known previously as like the three-headed monster, right?
Right.
Which was you go to Zillow, you put you have they have different agents there, and you fill out this lead capture form. One of those three agents gets that lead. Now, I don't know if there's a timeline, or this is maybe in the past, or I'm sure they've upgraded how they do this. But having built another site way back in the day with Remax, the way it would work is a round robin. A lead would go to that, and somewhat of a round robin. But you put a lead capture form in at a real estate site, and then at that point, I think at Zillow, they would sell that lead to internal agents, not external companies, right? And I'm not sure exactly if it was who paid higher, how many leads they were, or how many impressions they were supposed to get, all those kind of things. But now that lead could be sold if that agent wasn't performing. It could be sold to another agent who would contact you, to another agent, right? Mm-hmm. Some IDX, I don't know if there's any other sites. I'm not sure exactly how Movado does it. If in the case of CoStar, right, we already know that model. It's very simple. You're listing your lead, right? So I don't think that could be sold outside of there. So there might be some, and then if you look at OpCity via Realtor.com, what happens there? I think those are the two in my head right now would be Realtor.com and Zillow that have to kind of look at this. But they've been changing their models so often, it's hard to kind of keep up with what products they have as far as lead generation is concerned.
I think there are two that, come to my mind, right? One is Zillow, right? The sort of contact agent, and then it goes, that's one. The other one actually for me was Realtor.com. Mm-hmm. I mean, not Realtor, Redfin.
Redfin, okay.
Because what's not clear agents to me, right? So what's not clear to me is, but I think this is probably the way it works. That one-to-one consent is likely to a company, right? In other words, so take it out of real estate for a second. Let's say it's auto insurance, right? And I say, hey, I'm looking for an insurance quote on my car, right? Today, the way it works is just by simply putting that in, that website that does the insurance, whatever, comparison tool or whatever, right? They're going to ship that lead, my inquiry, out to, say, 10 insurance companies, and then I'm going to get phone calls, So I'm not sure it goes down to the level of the individual, is what I'm getting at, right? Like, I don't think it's, hey, I want to be contacted by Josh from, State Farm, and I'm willing to consent to Joni from, whatever, Allstate, right? I think it's, sure, have Allstate call me and have, State Farm call me, right? Okay, bring it to our world. I say, okay, I want to hear from Keller Williams and Coldwell Banker, right? But like when you think about how our world works, what happens there, right?
Yeah.
And Keller Williams and Coldwell Banker are not buying leads from Zillow, right? The agent is. So it has to be something like, I want
if
agent to call me.
Yeah. So
right?
if it's a premier agent, right? Only premier agents, if they put a moniker of that thing, is that enough to satisfy, what they're trying to put in there, right? It's funny you say that, like getting these calls. I was at a board meeting at an MLS yesterday, and like a couple agents around the table, and they kept getting texts, from different companies about association insurance. Hey, call me up to find out about how you set up your NAR association insurance, right? And it was just, it was literally
right.
Coming through there. So there's a real problem there for sure. But yeah, I'm sorry, when you said that, multiple things that just got me.
But what you point out is a good point. Like, this is actually really good news for us as consumers.
Yeah.
Right. And real estate agents are consumers. I think about how real estate agents would complain about how many phone calls they're getting from vendors. Right. It's like, how'd you even get my numbers? Like, chances are they got, like the MLS, the association sold them a list where they partnered. Right. Like, one of the value propositions of the REACH program is that if you're in the program, you get access to the NAR membership list. I'm not sure if that's valid anymore under this, right? But leave that to the side. So as consumers, it feels like really good news. Where I get to go in and I say, hey, you know what? I'm looking for a washing machine. I want to hear from Maytag and Whirlpool, right? Like, okay. So for Zillow, it feels like they probably have to list all of the premier agents. Well,
again, they're already, in the past, and I haven't looked at this in a while, just the 3 on there, right? That have paid for that spot. So they might just be able to get away with, that's what they revealed, is like, these are one of these agents, will be contacting you. And if one doesn't live up to the expectation, it may rotate down to the next one on that list, right?
Right. So my thinking about it, I don't think Zillow has that big of an issue. Okay. And here's what I mean. Especially with like the flex model that they've been really pursuing. Do you remember how Zillow would talk about, we're going to have our people just sort of screen that lead?
Yeah, of course, because agent responsiveness. We talked about this before. It's horrible.
Right. Not only that, but the agent also, I think, benefits if it's a clean lead. Is okay, this guy's actually ready, willing, and able to buy from you. So here's
So
here's a real lead, right?
Yeah. So, actually, I think the way, and I forgot who did this, but the way they described it, and I think was brilliant, was they're not selling you in a lead, they're selling you an appointment. Right. So that's somebody, that's been cultivated, that, has been through their system, and I'm like, okay, well, let's set up a time for you guys to meet, or let's set up a time for you guys to talk. And that's right. That's how they get that money. That's how they get the 30-40% referral fee.
That's right. That's right. So I don't think it's that big a deal for Zillow, because obviously in that conversation or whatever, messaging back and forth with the buyer, with the consumer, it's like, okay, I hear what you're saying. I'm going to link you up with the missing piece. Then is, I'm going to link you up with John from KW. Right. And then the consumer will be like, yeah, great, I want to hear from John. And then there's no problems. Okay. Yeah. So I don't think that's a big a deal. What I wonder about is Redfin with the partner agent. So remember Redfin forever, like from the very beginning, one of the things they said was, look, we have employee agents, right? So we can't handle business that's below a certain price point. Or in some cases, we only have so much bandwidth in a market. So we have to send those leads, those buyers, to our partner network, right? It feels like to me now Redfin's going to have to make some changes So I say, hey, I want to see this house, right? And I think Redfin's going to have to say, that's great. Like, here's a list of our partner agents, right? Like, if it's something that they can serve themselves, and I don't think, because it's at the company level is how I feel like, that one-to-one consent is have a Redfin agent contact me, right? Great. No problem. But I think if it's a partner agent, there probably is the next step here, where you're going to say, hey, we are not able to help you with one of our agents. Here's a list of our partner agents. Who do you want to be contacted by? Something along those lines of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, gosh, that's just a horrible experience. I mean, they talk about in a sign up flow, like a analysis paralysis, and you want to keep the number of interactions as few as you can. I mean, I just think if coming from a consumer, it's like, if I see a list of 40 agents, like, I don't know which one I want to, they're going to have to do that. Yeah. Wow.
They're going to have to figure something out. I think because I don't see how the Redfin partner model does not fall into this FCC rule.
Right.
Right. So those are two that like immediately came to mind.
The other thing though here is like, just, coming from, when I was my time at eNeighborhoods, and we had a partner company that really did a lot of great work on, there's this category of new homeowners, right? And there's statistics all around that. Like new homeowners spend spend $8,000 within the first 3 months at like a Home Depot, or they seem to buy a new car. Like, there's some stats around, like, to like marketers, like a new homeowner is gold, right? And so there's a lot of industries built up around gathering new home sale data, and then getting to those owners, and then selling that list to the Home Depots, the Lowe's, the local car dealerships all around that. I mean, how does that, what's the implication there, right?
I think it's dead.
Yeah, God.
I don't see how you could,
because they're not collecting that via the web. What they're doing is they're going down to the local court office, or they're contacting Adam or First American or all these guys and getting a list, and then putting together products and putting them out there. I mean, that's right. Does that become illegal? Or
I think so.
That's crazy.
Well, maybe it's not illegal because the issue is you can't use robocalls or robotext with those lists. So maybe you have to just use that list and do emails.
Or most of the time that I see it, it's really more the direct marketing, the
or
postcards and postcards and mail, type
postcards
of thing.
And mailers
direct mail. Sorry, that's what I was thinking.
Right, they're not affected by this because we've been dealing with that for like 50 years as a country, right?
Yeah.
So every time I move, I get a whole shitload of junk mail, right? But it's mail, so it's right. So it's not as disruptive as a phone call or a text,
right?
Right. So and most of the time it all just goes right in the trash. It's giant.
Well, I know there's companies, this whole thing is matching you of list of addresses with emails and phone numbers too, right?
That's right.
So the sophisticated marketers basically,
that's right.
They'll hit every single one of those. That's right. Crazy.
That I think is dead now. I don't think you can do that. Or maybe you can if you do individual phone calls, like you would have to hire a call center. So what that means is the cost of marketing goes dramatically up, right? Because, you could send out 30,000 text messages for pennies, to hire people to send 30, to make it not automated. It's going to cost you a lot of money, right? So, I think lists are dead. What your story about the board meeting makes me think, I think vendors can no longer buy lists from associations.
Well, to be quite honest with you, the associations really don't sell lists, right? I mean, if anything happens, they'll send something out on your behalf, but no association or MLS will let you touch the damn member database. Which is I always thought it's like a thing like, you can sell here, but sign this piece of paper to get the data, and the piece of paper says you can never contact any of our members using our data. It's like,
these random phone calls and texts that are coming in that they got a list from somewhere, right? Maybe not from the association. They got a list that's all dead. I don't think.
There's agent lists that can be bought for sure too.
I think that's all dead. I think it has to be one-to-one consent required before you can contact them through automated, right? Which, okay. So now we go almost entirely, if you will, to the world of pull marketing instead of push marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, at the ground level, I do know that there are some agents that are use these robo dialers for things like FISBO, and I don't think you could do that anymore. I think before you robo dial or robo text somebody, you need their consent to contact them.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure about. I mean, think about door knocking, right? I mean, if you is it such a bad thing? And again, I haven't totally thought this out, so I might be running into a wall here at the end of my sentence. But I mean, if I'm living in, this one area, call it C-Mark, that's my development. And I have an address, I have a list of the owners and the phone numbers of everybody there, and I'm a realtor. Is it such a bad thing to start calling those guys and say, hey, I'm Susie. I live on Red Jacket Circle and I'm a real estate agent and I love your house and I've got some buyers for you. Would you be interested in kind of listening to some of the offers being made? Oh no. Okay. Thanks. Click next. I mean, that's like fundamental.
My impression from reading I've read through like 3 different law firms and their sort of interpretation of what this rule means. My interpretation is Susie, the realtor, can do that. What Susie cannot do is hire a company that does robocalls. That makes sense?
So, well, yeah, but I mean, that's a tool.
So it has to be manual.
That's a tool, right?
Granted, but that's the issue, right? So what the FCC is out banning it outright is robocalls, robotexts. Right.
Right. So I have to hire my daughter will make the phone calls for me and hand me the phone once, and then make the next one, honey.
Right.
Make the next one, honey.
Or hey, like a lot of agents do, they do their hour of power. You got to dial, but you got to
call the damn
dial,
leads. Yeah.
Right. And say, I'm Susie, Jack. Okay, no. Okay, cool. Now, I've done telemarketing and it's not easy.
Nope.
It's not easy. It's, if you have like a 10% hit rate, that's a really good day. It's closer to like 1 in 1,000, 1 in 100. Now, if you are doing that, just manual calling, now you're running into some of the other laws, right? Like, are they on a do not call registry? Right.
Well, that's the thing, is that a lot of the tools, one of the main value proposition of a tool that will do calls for you is that you're buying, it's all part of a service, right?
Correct.
You're going to get the list,
Correct.
You're going to get the tool, and they've vetted the list to make sure it's not done that.
Correct.
It's not on those things,
Correct.
right? So,
Correct.
Yeah, this I'm not even sure if this has been that well thought out, if they're really kind of thinking about that the way you're describing it, right?
Oh, I'm sure they've. Oh, who knows? I don't know. We're talking government here, right?
Well, this is good because we're kind of asking questions. This is, we said, is more of a primer. We'll get a real expert on here to kind of like, put it on there, right?
Correct. Okay. But I'll tell you what, man. One thing that does kind of occur to me about this sort of unintended consequence is this actually could make realtors, real estate agents, super valuable.
Okay, explain that to me.
So, one of the value propositions of sort of the more experienced real estate agents they talk about is they have the network of service providers. Right. So, hey, I use a buyer agent. I bought this new house. Hey, who's a good plumber?
Right.
Right. Hey, I need a handyman. Right. Like, that is a one-to-one consent right there, where the realtor could say, oh yeah, no, let me tell you about Jack the plumber. Right. Do you mind if Jack calls you? Here's a consent, whatever, come to my website. I could see something like that happening, right? Like a smart agent or broker website, like, hey, whatever, who's your agent? Like, right? Like almost a service provision platform becoming like a lead gen source. There's some...
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think we've talked about this before, but 1,000 watt a day study about like agent loyalty and like what do consumers really want from an agent after they work with them. And it turns out to be really 3 specific things. It's number 1 is, of course, keeping track of the value of your home, right? As anybody with a good CMA would do. The second thing would be, hey, do you know a good painter? Do you know a good, handyman? Do you know a good, locksmith or whatever, right? That service providers you're talking about. And the third is, advice on like, well, I'm thinking of doing this in my kitchen. Is that going to give me the best cost for value ratio as far as if we decide to sell? So
that's right.
I think just building a whole business on those 3 tenements is a good idea, right?
That's right.
This goes back to your thing of like pull marketing. And what they call that in the business is like content marketing, right? Of putting out good content on that stuff.
Yep. So I don't, in a way, this could be this could be fine, for the industry. And I think,
I would want to get into nitty details of what they're talking about here, because some of that stuff sounds kind of scary. Like if you're going after tools, right? I mean, I get the fact of like if you go up to a website and you're deceived that's going to be sold to everybody. Now that absolutely, right? But I mean, if you're going to get it down to things that are banning things that are going to make somebody more efficient in their job,
they're banning. So here's the issue. They're banning those tools that make someone more efficient at their jobs, because them being efficient at their job is annoying the fuck out of consumers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, on a given day, I probably get 3 spam texts.
Oh, God. I get, 3 spam calls a day. I mean, it's...
And this is, by the way, I actually went and like bought apps that sit on my phone and, like try and minimize that. Even with that, just on an average day, 3 spam texts, right? On a non-average day, I could be getting 10 or 20. And then I have to take the time to like delete it. Like it's fucking annoying. So I don't mind. As a consumer, I do not mind removing that tool. Right.
Right.
So I suppose if I had a company, if my business was providing robo texting, I mean, you're
Maybe
dead.
Not.
Right. Or I suppose that what they have to say is, okay, we can do robo text, but you have to get this 1-to-1 consent. Right. There is probably something for agents, brokers, everyone to think about, vendors to think about, which is you're probably going to want to have some record of that 1-to-1 consent, because you can get sued for violating this, and it's $1,500 per in statutory damages.
But I mean, what realtor is going to like capture leads and sell them off?
No, literally just by contacting somebody without their permission.
Oh, okay. That you bought these leads from somebody that have done that.
And then you contacted them.
Oh, yeah. No, that's not good.
The consumer could get $1,500 from you for an unauthorized text, if you will. So before you text before any of that shit, and yes, there's some notion as to the manual's fine, right? It's just the automated that they're trying to knock out. Mm-hmm. But why?
Well, I mean, even
around?
if you bought a list of consumers that were defrauded in a sense where they thought they were going to talk to one company, but they sold it to you, even if I think you called it manually, you'd probably be subject to
exactly.
Yeah, and how does a realtor know? Yeah, that's
which
crazy.
Is why then as a realtor, as a business, I'm going to want like a record of here's your content. Here's where you check this box. Here's where you said, contact me. Right. So it's probably going to raise record keeping, I think, requirements for something like this. But other than that, I think this is generally a positive, right? Generally a positive. Like I said, the portals, I think they can adjust. This is not the end of the world. At least in real estate, the portals that I'm thinking of, they're all pretty good at, to your point, no, they don't sell leads anymore. They try and sell appointments.
Yeah.
So that's probably a positive. That is probably a positive. So
yeah, well, depending on your perspective of the industry, right? Yeah.
Now,
but from this standpoint, yes, yeah.
Now, this is just 2 random assholes talking about this on the internet. We are trying to line up a guest who truly is an expert, a subject matter expert. So we may be revisiting this topic in the next few weeks. And And in the meantime, like, who knows? There are going to be other people publishing content who really do understand kind of the ins and outs of, text and call marketing. So, but keep an eye out. Our point is, this is an issue that you need to be aware of if you're a broker, an agent, a vendor, right? If you're just in real estate and you're involved with leads in any way, shape, or form, right? This is something you need to be aware of. So, with that said, I think the other, so all we talk about these days is government action and laws.
Well, there's a couple other things. I just put this in there, and we hadn't talked about this before, but I mean, I think people will be listening to this podcast that are going to Inman next week. Are you going to Inman, New York?
No,
I'm not either. I'm going up to Seattle for some family stuff.
Yeah.
But I know, looking at the panels look, actually, they're really having a focus on MLS this year because of what the hell's going on. And Ed Zorn's going to be there talking about, possible settlements. I think one thing I would have loved to kind of be able to be there for would be a panel that has got Matt Consalvo on, and Emily and some others,
sure,
and John D. Michelle, and I know they're going to be bringing up this whole thing that happened, and I don't want to speak about it anymore. But
the lawyer's going to tell them you're not allowed to comment. You have to just go, I can't comment on ongoing litigation.
Maybe if they kind of keep it high level, but I mean, there's a lot going on there. But maybe Matt specifically can't comment, but it would be interesting to hear what other MLSs think about what's going on over there.
Sure.
And I mean, that makes me have a little bit of FOMO, but at the same time, I've got some other stuff to take care of. But that looked pretty good.
So you're gonna have FOMO. I'm not gonna have FOMO. Because here's the thing, man. Honestly, do you really think we're gonna hear something new?
Okay, so I'll just throw this out here. Have we really, God, I don't want to talk about this. Yeah. I mean, I get your point. I mean, I would just, there's a lot of things going on. This latest Zillow thing is only a portion of that.
Mm-hmm.
But what other MLS leaders think about this?
Okay. So they hate it. I can't believe Zillow sued. Okay. Now what?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd love to hear other perspectives on a myriad of topics of that, not just the one that you mentioned.
I mean, the only chance we would hear something new is if they actually make one of my predictions come true and I get another steak dinner. If they all say, "Oh yeah, we're quitting NAR,"
right?
They're not going to say that. No, none of those people are getting on stage and saying that, right?
Right.
So, like, what, or how about this? So, what are you guys doing to prepare for the inevitable lawsuit in case you haven't yet been sued? Right.
Right.
The three guys you just mentioned, I think they're all sued.
Yeah. Yeah. No, everybody's getting sued. Everybody's
right. So,
sued.
What can they say about that? Well, we can't comment on ongoing litigation right. So.
Yeah, what is the other thing? Like, who else is going to be dragged in this? Has a title company yet been sued? I mean, if they want the real money, go after title companies.
Yeah, but there's no antitrust claim on title companies from this set of facts, right?
Yeah.
No, from these set of facts. My point being simply like, copycat lawyers are lazy. They're just going to say, oh, hey, look, they won a bunch of money using this. Let's just copy and paste that. Hence the copycat, right? They can't copy and paste it against Fidelity. Like, they would actually have to do real work, come up with some theory and blah, 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 right? So, yeah. I mean, I stopped keeping track of all the lawsuits. I think another one was just filed in California. I think there was another.
Yeah, huge.
The New York one I had to comment on only because it was New York and it was Rebney, right? Which I thought was interesting. And then Rebney's rules are just like, holy shit. Like, are you serious? The only thing I thought was interesting about the Rebney thing was the fact that Rebney went and changed their rules because of Sitzer, because of these lawsuits. And they still got sued because, like, that's great. You changed the rules.
Yeah. Well, you didn't change them 3 years ago or 2
You
years
didn't
ago,
change it
whatever
3 years
it was.
ago,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
Northwest MLS, like I don't remember when they changed their rules. The clock is ticking. So I assume
God.
somebody's, putting together a
Well,
complaint.
it'll be interesting, in a month or so when I guess we'll hear from. I don't know. There's so many agencies now. I'm getting the alphabet soup in my head, but
The
FTC,
DOJ, FTC, yeah.
I guess we're hearing for the MLS pen case. We're supposed to be hearing from them on the 15th, or is that the DOJ?
That's
One of the
DOJ.
goddamn two.
Yeah. It's the deep state.
I thought we had a lot of real acronyms in real estate. The government's got a close second here, for Christ's sake.
Absolutely, the government, the military. So yeah, I don't know. Like I want to say that I think what would be interesting would be obviously the hallway conversations.
Yeah, always.
The behind the scenes, always. But even then, I'm not so certain that the MLSs are even willing to have those conversations anymore. What do you think?
Yeah. I think, honestly, I think all that is left are the conversations because you don't want anything in writing.
Right.
Right. So, anything that's a conversation, I think is you can always, and let's be honest, sometimes these conversations are forgotten.
Right.
Just on the inebriation that's going on
Right.
too, but at least you're going to kind of suss things out. Right. So
let me ask you this. Just from I don't know what to call it, PR standpoint, I suppose, right? Given everything that is happening, but given specific like Sitzer and then the Zillow lawsuit, right? Where it was you're part of MLS aligned. If you're an MLS executive, how excited are you to be going to like a CMLS conference?
right.
Just from an appearances standpoint, I'm not saying there's anything wrong or the CML. No, nothing. I happen to know CMLS pretty well, and I know it's not. But just from an appearance standpoint, how eager are you to be like? I attended 7 different industry conferences last year where I spoke with a bunch of my peers. Right.
Right. No, I get what you're getting at. I still think, those things are needed. They're sharing best practices about running those organizations too. It's not just some sort of like, they're getting updates on, things that are going on in those things. I don't know. If this was just started after all this stuff, we're going to get together and form an association that's going to be in our interest. Maybe that, but this CMLS is, a lot of people don't know this, but that, 60 years old, started as Northwest Council up. So it's a long standing kind of thing here. So I wouldn't put any, I don't think anybody's going to have those kind of collusion. We're meeting together in smoky rooms kind of vibe at all.
You and I both know that's there's no meetings in smoky rooms. We know that. I'm just saying for appearances. If I'm a plaintiff's attorney and I say, "Hey, look at this conspiracy mongering going on over here," like I don't know. It's a question, right?
Yeah.
Let me put it this way.
Listen, here's the thing. Anybody can sue anybody for anything. Anybody can say
Absolutely.
anything for anybody. So, it's just like, if this is going to disrupt your life, if your business or whatever, how you do things, if you're not going to come out, that's not a good thing. I don't think people should be fearful. Don't base your decisions on fear.
I agree with that, but I would also say if I'm an MLS CEO today, I don't go to any industry conferences without my general counsel right next to me. Again,
I don't even know. How many MLSs have like a general counsel? Some of the bigger ones do, but
some of the bigger ones do. So
Yeah.
that leads right to one of the perennial dead horse we like to beat, which is if you are not large enough to have a general counsel, maybe it's time for you to go. Just saying.
The whole thing of like how, if it's only the attorneys get rich and there's all this stuff, which is basically what's going to happen. It's just what a freaking sad day. Good Lord.
Of course. It's fun.
Good Lord.
I'm not denying any of it. I'm just saying, but you got to be, if you are going to an industry event, I think I would want my GC with me. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where we're at, unfortunately. For that matter, brokerages.
Well,
Because brokers
again,
getting sued, right?
Go to an association luncheon. Agents are being sued, teams and stuff.
Right.
What's up with that, right?
Right. So we got to get this behind us. I just don't know if we're going to do it in 24. Right? I just don't know if we're going to do it this year.
Yeah. No, there's a change coming, man. There's a change coming for sure. Good Lord.
What's the change, Greg? What your gut feeling? What do you think is like the big change that's going to be coming?
I think just the amount and how many are being these sued. This long tail of MLSs. I guess I'm going back and forth on this because I'm not even sure if I think we have a bet on the number of MLSs.
I think we do, yes.
But those MLS, what was the stat I gave you? It was like, if there's 525 MLSs, like 240 have less than 500 members piece.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And if they get caught up in a lawsuit, they're toast.
Yeah.
Right. They're going to, the amount of cost and brain power and everything else to kind of like go through discovery and, file this and whatever. They don't, if you're a 500 member MLS, you're not ready for,
you don't have money to hire
anything
lawyers.
like that. You don't have people to answer the phone.
You don't have money to hire lawyers to defend you.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just how, and I think a lot of these guys are just hoping NAR is going to be the cavalry to save the day. And they got to get their head out of the sand for sure, man.
All right. So the big change you think is the bottom half of MLSs are just gone.
I don't know if I'm going to say gone, but there's some restructuring going to happen. And I think it's like we were talking about when we were first thinking about this lawsuit. It's like the ones that go first get the better deal.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
When you turn state's evidence, I think is the phrase we were kind of using it.
That's right.
And I won't put it that way, but it's like I think if I'm some of those guys out there, you're not going to get a good, you have a little bit of leverage now, right? But don't be coming to me hat in hand when you thought everything was, everything was going to be taken care of by the mothership, and now you want a good deal. Fuck that, right? So if I'm one of those 240 MLSs, and you could put associations in this bat, get your good deal now,
right?
Because the MLSs that have planned this out, that are making changes to their structure and and have thought about this, they have that rainy day fund in a way, who are going to survive this. If you want to come to them after, at the very last minute, you're not going to get anything. I would be starting to thinking about those things right now and getting as best a deal you can, because you're not going to get one later. Yeah.
No, I agree with that. But this is something we've been saying for about 2 years now, I think.
Yeah.
Settle early, settle often.
That kind of phrasing, but I think, from that standpoint, I just, as these things, here's the thing.
I know I did.
You were like,
you've
been predicting this goddamn thing.
You were telling me NAR was going to win. So why the fuck would I settle when I know I'm going to win? So,
Yeah. No, it's true. What did Andy say on stage? It's like as many times as I've been wrong, like, right? No, listen, if you want to get out here and talk every week and make predictions, you're going to be way more wrong than you are right. So
that is true. Hey, I make predictions guaranteed wrong. So, Yeah. All right. Let's wrap up there. Like I said, I wish we had a little bit more on the FCC implications for the industry, but I think between the two of us, I think we've sort of outlined most of the major big time implications. We are going to bring on some experts to really explore that, because obviously that's really important, to brokers and agents out there. Like, how you do lead generation is all about to change, or not. Because here's the thing. Here's the funny thing. When I think about it, I put this on Twitter, and number of the responses were basically like, this doesn't affect me in the least bit because I'm all about referrals and Sphere, I don't do the automated stuff. I don't do this type of tech marketing. And I have a great business because I have a solid roster. Oh, great. So maybe not, but it is something that I think the industry should be aware of. And one of the things we do is making the industry aware of shit that should be aware of. So there we go. So
very cool, man.
All right. Well, great chatting with you. Hey, thanks everybody for listening. And we will see you all next week with yet another exciting episode. Or maybe we'll have a boring episode because nothing will actually happen that we have to pay attention to. That would be nice.
Yeah, God, wouldn't it be? We can go back to like talking about movies and shit.
Yeah.
Like we have to have one of those kind of episodes. Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
All right. Later, everyone.
Listen, content is everything. Two Brothers Creative makes it look easy. Right now, business owners really only have two options. The first option is hire a big firm. Now, this big firm's going to come in, make you think that they invented all the algorithms, and start charging you thousands of dollars every month. You don't want to do that. Second option is to do it yourself. Well, that means you got to learn SEO, SEM, copywriting, marketing techniques on the web. You should be really focusing on your own product. But now there's a third option. It's called Content in a Box. Give Two Brothers Creative 30 minutes a week and they'll handle everything. Plus, they'll show you how to bring it in-house later on. They'll rebuild your marketing foundation and give you tools and techniques and a new marketing playbook that'll actually produce real results and help you grow your business. Two Brothers Creative will give you the confidence and know-how to tell the SEOs and SEMs and all those other acronyms to get fucked. You're in control now. Get started today at thecontentbox.com.